If this goes on, don't panic. Bringing hope to the world through speculative fiction.
Hey all, welcome to the column I am now calling Bailey's Book Reviews, an audio column where I am reviewing some books that I have been reading. So this time around, I've got 4 books for you. I'm going to start with Polis, Tales from the One City, published in 2020, edited by Todd Sanders, published by Air Nothing Press. This anthology is based around the idea of the planet becoming one giant city. Think Coruscant in Star Wars. Each story is flash fiction, which means about 1,000 words maximum. Though none of the authors are conventionally big names, there are a number of writers whose work I've enjoyed over the years, including the criminally underrated Jamie Lackey, Samantha Barrett, and Brandon Ketchum. Unsurprisingly, my favorite stories come from this group of writers, including Samantha Barrett's The Question, in which the main character yearns for a new, better life in the upper levels away from her current partner. I also really enjoyed Narrow Margins by Brandon Ketchum. In this story, the main character is a drip dropper, a person who illegally harvests condensation from the underground pipes, which is a pretty cool idea anyway. It follows them as they try to escape a cop, ending with surprising results. But all the stories are enjoyable in quick reads. And before I forget, the cover art is gorgeous. I mention this every time I review a book by Air Nothing Press, but these are truly art objects. And I'm not sure if I ever mentioned this before, but every run is intentionally limited. So go out and grab one as soon as you can. Pick up this book if you enjoy flash fiction, planet-wide cities, and dystopia. The next one I want to talk about is The Emergent by Nadia Afifi. It's published in 2022 by Flame Tree Press. This is the sequel to Afifi's novel, The Sentient, which I reviewed some time ago. This novel continues the explorations of consciousness and identity, chief among the themes of her first novel. The story begins with the main character, Amira Valdez, traumatized by the events of The Sentient. While recovering, she decides to continue her studies on the first human clone, who may now be even more extraordinary because of the experiments of the mad scientist type and master manipulator Tony Barlow, one of the villains in The Sentient. She also finds herself again being pursued by the extremist religious cult that she had escaped from. As the book progresses, Amira quickly finds herself subservient to Tony Barlow, who continues to scheme 3 steps ahead of everyone else. With the extremists close behind, she finds herself surrounded by enemies in an unpredictable whirlwind of events. Afifi does a great job developing a number of the characters in this story, and maybe not the ones that you would expect. These include the big brother figure, Hadrian. She really goes into detail about the villains, Tony Barlow and Resnick, and really does a good job developing their characters. So you kind of have some understanding of what they're doing and where they're coming from. She also hits on a few tertiary characters that kind of lurked in the background in the first novel, which I was pretty surprised about. And she left out some obvious choices too. But my opinion is that this makes the third novel all the more interesting. I can't wait to see what happens and where everything goes from there. And while the writing style is straightforward and faster moving than her first novel, Afifi is ruthless and willing to crush your expectations and your feelings again and again. If you are interested in psychic explorations, scheming villains, and having your heart ripped from your chest, you'll really enjoy this one. Okay, the third novel I'm going to cover, The Cursed Titans by Ricardo Victoria, published in 2021 by Artemesia Publishing. This is a sequel as well, and I covered the first novel, Withered King, previously. This novel continues the anime antics of the first novel, but takes it up another notch. The characters have grown in power since the first book, putting them near the power of superheroes. The book also changes its focus to Alex, who was a secondary character in the first novel, In between the hectic march of battles and adventures, Victoria takes an introspective turn to explore the psychology of depression and what it means for a person. There is also more time spent developing the characters and less time with world building, relying a lot on the world building in the first novel. The story starts with Alex overcompensating for his depression, acting as a vigilante and catching thieves robbing his favorite comic book shop. The action intensifies as he is united with his friends for a political tournament that helps different countries and international organizations to make decisions in place of wars. The politics evolve into a greater problem for all of the teams. As I've said before, this novel has a foundation in video games, so if you're a fan of fantasy or steampunk style video games, this novel could interest you. Also check this novel out if you like action scenes, explorations of depression, and characters that are their own worst enemies. Okay, and the final book I'm going to cover is a standalone. It's called Test Drive, a novel by Paul McGinty, published in 2022 by Propellor Books. This short novel is part near future working class dystopia and part love letter to Pittsburgh. It's pretty easy to see why I had to get my hands on this one immediately. The story follows the main character, Pegs, as she tries to navigate a world in which workers have little choice but to work endless hours and scrounge to live. She decides to fight back by stealing car parts from her employer, Revo, a company that is trying to develop self-driving cars in Pittsburgh. Two of her co-workers are embroiled in her scheme as well. Meanwhile, they all struggle to make sense of the endless grind of their lives. I enjoyed the simplicity of this book, and I could relate to the endless grind of work, as we all can, I suspect. This book really takes a look at what the working class may become in the next 10 years, and the struggle to understand the importance of politics for someone who just wants to live. But as you and I both know, every choice is political, and so Peg learns that she must also struggle with that observation. I also love that this book is practically a guided tour of Pittsburgh. Many neighborhoods are named and described with atlas-like accuracy. I'm glad someone enjoys Pittsburgh as much as I do. I recommend this book for folks who love Pittsburgh, want to fight back against the man, and enjoy near-future fiction. All right, and that's all for this time. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate it, and talk to you guys soon.